Yes, so I'm gonna basically watch something. Right. So let's see what we gotta watch. This is something that I've already watched before. I mean, not like this exact one, but in general, the series I watched a couple of first videos. The Analog Life for Peace and Creativity. Nah, so I know what they're gonna say. ये वो अच्छा रहता है, वो मजा आता है. The Lynx is back at the Europe's World Cup. Looks like Visas. Stop chasing trends, the Hitchcock principle that defines Kendrick Lamar's deepest arts. Okay. The Town That Cried Wolf. Let's talk about medieval hygiene. That's actually a good thing. That's an interesting topic of discussion. Zion culture in India, expand how they expand the creative horizons. What do you look European narrates a story on highway? Never mind. Not something I'm gonna watch. A human can't never know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is something interesting. Like even if the person does not have an internal monologue. Because I suppose a lot of people do have internal monologue. Okay, how did even humans evolve? It's too big of a video to watch. Tintin in debate. Nah. Yeah, this guy is what you were basically thinking about before. Recognizable sounds is another name of Tattoo Santa Claus. This is an absurd title, but pointless as such. ये सब नहीं देखना मैं. I'll figure it out on my own. You should watch this. Not that big.
Imagine conducting every part of your research only on one platform. Meet Boring.
Let's start.
A few days ago, I found out that not everyone has an internal monologue. So what I mean by that is like they can't hear their thoughts, um, which I didn't believe to be true until I asked someone, and they said that if they physically wanted to say something in their head, they'd have to say it out loud. Like they couldn't do it. They don't have that voice that thing in their head. They'd have to say it out loud. Like they couldn't do it. They don't have that voice that I thought everyone had. Um, so it blew my mind. And I wrote an article about how it ruined my day, and a bunch of people read it and came at me with all these questions that I'm not capable of answering.
Okay, I think I don't relate to this thing because when I say internal monologue, I mean like actually, yeah, even I don't have internal monologue. I just speak up shit. I can't think of shit. I either speak up or write up, or you know what I'm saying? Some kind of expression should be there, nothing else. Consume? That's interesting. I always wanted to watch this video.
Have
See.
you ever wondered why certain people just feel cool, even when they're just doing nothing? It's not the clothes or the music or the confidence, but I think it's the ability to choose differently in a world that tells you what to like. Most people's
Choose differently.
tastes are built by algorithms and the fear of being left out. But there's a reason why the people with real taste just seem a little bit more freer, and this video is going to show you why.
Fair enough. That's a beautiful line of thinking.
There's this strange divide in the world right now that no one is really talking about. The difference between people who curate their lives and people who just collect them. I think the difference between interesting people and normies isn't really about looks, money, or fame, it's about taste. And not the kind of taste that
It's about taste.
trends on Pinterest or fills a feed. I mean, real taste, that quiet, intentional kind of taste that you build over years when you actually pay attention to what moves you. You see, most people don't build themselves, they almost assemble themselves out of whatever everyone else seems to like at the moment. They chase validation in the easiest way possible by aligning their interest with the crowd. And because the crowd changes every 2 months, they do too. But most cool or interesting people, they don't chase. They notice the feeling a film gives them or a way an old song hits in an empty room. These little things, they notice the tone, the atmosphere,
Hmm. I don't know.
the way a certain
I think this is true. Like the responsive intelligence aspect is really true. Like responsive intelligence. It's like a cool topic to be talking about. Where, like, never mind. I mean, let's just watch it for few more minutes.
thing feels right to them, even if no one else gets it. And they trust that instinct enough to follow it again and again, and once they do too. But most cool or interesting people, they don't chase. They notice the feeling a film gives them or a way an old song
They notice. That's a good line.
hits in an empty room. These little things, they notice the tone, the atmosphere, the way a certain thing feels right to them, even if no one else gets it. And they trust that instinct enough to follow it again and again until it becomes a language only they speak. I think that's the real difference. Interesting people have developed taste because they've done the work of figuring out what they actually like, and normies haven't because they've outsourced that work to everyone else. You see, we live in a time when
What they actually like and what they've also outsourced.
everyone thinks they have taste because they know what's trending. But knowing what's trending isn't taste. I'm sorry, it's awareness of marketing, the algorithmic fluency, but not the artistic curiosity. You see it all the time, right? People dressing the same, speaking the same, posting the same, even the same half ironic playlist or the same disposable cameras or the same artsy poses. Yet they still think they're being original. That's what's wild about the modern era is that conformity now disguises itself as individuality. People no longer say like, "Oh, I want to fit in." They say, "I just like the vibe." But the vibe they like is the one that's currently being mass produced. The interesting people though, they don't need to chase a vibe.
So there's this aspect of pretense in it. Like जब मैंने बोल दिया कि I like the vibe of it, then it means nobody can sort of comment on it because it's me who likes it. I like too much subjectivity to be questioning to be questioning. To be questioning upon. Like
They more so create their own world out of the fragments they have found. They're like cultural archaeologists. Okay, they're digging through the noise, collecting relics that no one really has seen value in, and somehow they're assembling them into
there's like a relic collection that needs to happen. You know what I mean? like or some form of collection. Should happen.
Something that feels like them. And I think that's why cool people always seem slightly off grid, slightly disconnected from the mainstream conversation because their taste is shaped by their experience, not the algorithm's recommendation. But the funny thing is that this has nothing to do with rebellion, okay? It's not about being edgy or trying to be different for the sake of it. That's performative coolness. The kind of people who post hot takes just to look unique, but real cool people aren't rebelling against anything. They just refuse to be distracted from themselves.
That's a good line. That's a very good line. Like they just refuse to be distracted from themselves.
They're not trying to be seen as different, they just are different because they move through the world with their eyes open. You know, they look for the things that make them feel alive, not the things that make them look alive. And when you start doing that, when you start actually paying attention to what moves you instead of what's popular, I think you start to begin to build your own internal system. You kind of start connecting the dots between random things like the color grading of old film, or the texture of a magazine ad, or the rhythm of a shoegaze song, or the way the architect used concrete in 1973. You know, you start creating a world that belongs to you. And that's what real taste is: cultural awareness guided by emotional intelligence. But I don't think most people never reach that point because they don't have the patience to sit with silence. They don't have the patience to feel the boredom long enough to notice that, what they're actually drawn to. So they fill every gap in their lives with content. And the moment you fill every page, you leave almost no room for discovery. And the cool, interesting people, they mostly sit in the gaps. They let time pass, they let their obsessions find them. They listen to albums from start to finish, watch movies alone without scrolling, walk through thrift stores with no plan, or they start collecting ideas the way others collect dopamine.
That's true.
That I think that's why they develop taste that feels lived in almost, because their taste comes from real experiences, not simulated ones. Well, you could say, right, like, who cares, Val, right? If people like what everyone else likes, what's the big deal? And that's fair. But here's where it kind of becomes sad a little bit, is that when everyone's taste is the same, no one actually feels anything anymore slowly. When everything's designed to be liked by everyone, it almost stops meaning anything to anyone.
Grammarly helps me get the best grades possible while depleting the least amount of hours of my week.
So, cool, interesting people, in a sense, preserve emotions, they preserve depth. They remind us that the point of art, fashion, music, and culture isn't to fit in, it's to feel something. But most people are almost terrified of this. They're scared that if they like something too different, it could possibly isolate them. And they're right. Sometimes it can and it will, and because real taste, it can be lonely at first. It's lonely to love something that no one really else gets. It's lonely to wear something people laugh at or listen to a band really no one has the clue of. That loneliness, I think that's where identity begins to form. That's where your creative compass is born. So sometimes I like to think about this paradox that everyone wants to be unique, but no one wants to be alone. So they perform uniqueness within this boundary of collective
Wants to be unique, no one wants to be unique. No one wants to be alone.
approval. They want the illusion of individuality, but not the responsibility of it. The responsibility of it means you have to stand alone for a while. It means you have to look around and realize, not everybody is clapping. And I think that's where most people like to turn back. That's when they stop curating and just start copying almost. But the ones who keep going, the ones who lean into that silence, they eventually come out with something real, something that actually has a fingerprint on it. And that's what makes them cool, interesting. It's not the outfit, it's not the music taste, it's not the confidence, it's that you could feel they made their choices themselves. They built a taste system almost that mirrors their inner world, and I think that's what makes them so incredibly magnetic. But coolness in the end, right, is just this self-awareness turned outwards. It's how self-knowledge looks when it's dressed in sound, color, or texture. It's the way understanding yourself makes you move differently. And people pick up on that energy easily, and even if they can't really explain it. So the tragedy is that we've turned taste into a personality quiz.
Well, I suppose I feel like sleeping right now. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end this stream